Greetings and welcome to the Thirsty Mage, the podcast who could use and definitely wouldn't abuse some divine protection of our own. Welcome to our RPG podcast. I'm David Lloyd, and this episode we're grading our experience so far on the first 20 hours of Metaphor Refantazio. We'll be referencing Persona plenty of times in this game, or in this episode, so just an advance notice that there's no escaping the Persona comparison. These games are just they're too similar. They're made by the same people. There's just no way of getting around it. There's no way to play this game without feeling that Persona vibe, and so yeah, there's going to be plenty of comparisons, I'm sure, to 5, 4, and Reload, I'm sure. So here with me is the only other Thirsty Mage member that's playing Metaphor. It's Paige Chamberlain.
I thought you were about to say Thirsty Paige.
I know.
Boo everybody else. Boo.
Yeah, really. Like I was surprised. I thought Jordan would be all over. I know Casey's. He's actually playing an SMT game now. He's playing Vengeance. So
picked Vengeance up. See, I started it and then put it down, and then he's picked it up months later. So now it's like, oh, now I can't play Metaphor, and Jordan's just reviewing games like an idiot. That's.
Well, and the funny thing too, so he's the reason he's not playing Metaphor is because he's so enthralled with Romancing Saga 2, Revenge of the Seven. So he's so in love with it that he actually may have broken embargo in the previous episode. So I had to delay its its release to the going public until the embargo date. I'm pretty sure he didn't, but. He got really into talking about the game, so to be cautious, we I delayed it a few days, but it kind of worked out anyway because I've just kind of gotten off my cold. I barely made it through the last episode. I was editing like a madman to get rid of all of my sneezes and coughs, and 2 or 3 times where
you've got to make the version where you sneeze a Patreon exclusive.
Yes, right. There's people pay good money for me to have a coughing and choking fit where I was going on too long, and then my voice just gave out completely, and we had to break for 2 minutes while I picked myself up off the floor. Got my breath back, but all good now, which is good because we have this huge game. I know it was just a couple episodes ago that you and I had talked about the Metaphor demo.
Yes, so, I think we got most of the Persona comparisons out of the way. Like, there's not we experience all of that in the demo, so I don't know how much we're going to be doing it really. But we will definitely be actually talking about the story this time. So if you have not made it to Brilehaven in the game.
Yeah, so that's the first big city. So I'm about I think I hit 22 hours. Yes. I know, Paige, you're further than I am. But yeah, so I've made it to the first major city and saw some scary stuff there. So that's as far as we'll be talking in this episode, is from the beginning. We might go a little bit over the demo, probably not too much over the demo stuff, but just to kind of rehash the story again.
We got up late because the demo cuts you off before you finish up that first big dungeon.
Yeah.
And then that's after that you finally get to experience the gauntlet run aspects, and just sort of the general actual flow of the game. In like the next area you go to, which story then doesn't cap off until we get to Brilehaven, so we'll talk about that a little bit, but obviously not the end of that because David is not up to it.
Nope, I can't spoil what I haven't done yet, so everyone's safe. And I'll do one more final warning that if it sounds like I'm worried that I'm going to come off sounding critical of this game, because I am enjoying it and I'm having a really good time, but I already know I have a few beefs with the game, and so just everyone know that any criticism that I'm lobbing at this game, it's out of love and respect. So don't come after me with pitchforks if I'm beating this game down, especially after it got like a 96 or 95 or whatever it was on Metacritic. I don't think I'm there yet, but it's still early. It's the first quarter of the game. I'm sure, based on the fact that it's probably a 100-hour game. So
I mean, I know someone who said they'd be in like 64 hours, but I also watched their video of them playing Persona 5 Royal and they're moving at lightning speed, so I don't.
Yeah,
You know,
some people you can't
we
compare.
we both had to redo the demo, didn't we? Because
Yeah, I don't know what happened with mine. Like
yeah,
I kept it on the same um I kept it on the same system. Like I did the
yeah.
demo on the Steam Deck, and then I downloaded the Metaphor onto my Steam Deck, and that's where I've been playing almost exclusively is on my Steam Deck. But for whatever reason, the demo information did not translate over when I downloaded it. I've actually had some installation issues with Metaphor. I was trying to play on my PC, and I had originally, when the game first came out, I downloaded it immediately to my Steam Deck and my PC. And then so I had been playing on the Steam Deck for a bit, and then I thought, okay, I'm at home and I want to play on my PC, so I got the big monitor or whatever, and I go there to start it up, and there's like a really huge update, and the update basically like killed the game. Like I couldn't open the game anymore, and it wouldn't install, and so I had to completely delete it from my hard drive and re-download again. And I haven't even tried it again to see if it works, but I know I've seen a few online, a few problems that people were having as well, kind of similar, like where they're having problems with the update or whatever. So
Hmm.
a few glitches, I guess, to still work
Yeah,
out.
I know someone is reviewing it like this. I guess they weren't keeping many multiple saves, and they sort of got like soft locked or something at one point. So they're able to like contact the PR and get different save
Oh yeah.
files because they're on PC. So they could just here's a save file, put it in your folder, and keep
Oh yeah,
going.
that's funny. Yeah. Well, and
Um,
it's I actually, there's one of the quests got bugged up because they did it in the wrong order, and now I can't. Now the quest is on like I can't finish it. It's impossible.
what's
So
that?
so there's um so after you do the first dungeon, like after you finish the catacombs, you
Yeah.
can go back to the catacombs, and
Yes.
there's so there's two quests that you can do there.
Yes.
There's
So you.
one where there's like a rich guy who says he's lost his a necklace or something in the catacombs, and then the guard at the front says he needs skeleton heads or
Yeah.
something, um, and so I didn't talk to the guard, so I didn't know about the skeleton head one, but I went
Oh.
in to do the quest to get the necklace. So I went through and I got the necklace and left, and then I was actually on the way out. I talked to the guard, and he's like, "Oh, I need skeleton heads." And I'm like, "Oh, I was just in there." So I went back in, but I read online that the skeletons no longer spawn after you get that necklace. So
Oh,
I
that's weird.
yeah,
I
so I
mean,
cannot do the I can't do the quest. It's just going to be incomplete, and there's an achievement I won't be able to get.
well, um, no. The trick to this game is you pick up all the quests and then go, and
Yeah.
also, well, we're sort of talking about out of order, but also just for tip wise, talk to your informant because I'll mention another place. Yeah, we have once we talk about the Gauntlet Runner stuff. You've got that free time and you can actually go out of town, but you won't know where locations are unless you pay the informant. And then I went on a run where there's like two places. So I'm going on like this trip where I'm going to place one and place two, but I saw these places I couldn't like. There's gauntlet runners of other people, and I'm like, I can't go to this place, and I hadn't paid the informant, and then it's like in between those two places, so I could have done a round trip, but I didn't pay him, so I had to waste extra days just to get there. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, so definitely, yeah, pick up all your quests. Just
Yep, and
pain in
the
the butt.
informant is pretty cheap, so it's definitely
And a
worth
lot of
buying
the
whatever's available.
I think like half the quests don't even have deadlines too, so that's good.
Yeah, yeah, that's I noticed that too. There's only been like a couple of them really that have
Yeah,
deadlines, and they're not
I
even like strict deadlines. They're like, "Oh, I need this done in the next 2 weeks," and
yeah
it's like,
before the
"Oh,
next
okay."
story event, basically.
Yeah.
I did like that there was a quest to go back into the cathedral catacombs because like when you go in it, there's a bunch of locked doors and you can't go it. Say like what, but it's a little bonus dungeon for later. Although I'm trying to look it up and I'm like, because in that first dungeon that you get part of through in like the demo, which clearly you like the game enough that you started again from the start.
Yeah.
I only shaved 1 hour off my time, skipping all the cutscenes and everything. So, which I guess is good because I swear if you started Persona 5 again and you skipped all the cutscenes and everything, you
Yeah.
would cut a lot more time. Like I think the start of the game is significantly more engaging. They really
Yeah, that's true.
worked on that. But
Well,
yeah,
that kind of comes to the first topic I would say is that um, to me the story I would give an A grade on the story because the I just feel like it's a pretty strong story. You're not getting hammered with cutscenes like you said. I mean, there is the pacing of the story beats is pretty decent. Uh, so as of right now, basically the way the story goes is that the there's this land that's kind of divided up between 3 different regions, I think it is, and then there's like 8 different tribes, I believe, that all inhabit. None of them get along, and the king that kind of I guess like the kingdom has never really been at peace per se.
yeah,
It's
it's
kind of
like
just been like
it's a united kingdom. So there's like the countries, yeah, like you said, it's made out of 3 or so countries. That were, I guess, only somewhat recently. Like I don't know if it's 100 years or but like fairly
yeah.
recently united. Um, yeah, and he gets assassinated.
So the king I guess is sick. And I
in,
think I
in,
guess
in
I
the in the opening cutscene of the game, he
yeah, and
gets
how
assassinated.
I they don't really say like how long ago the prince was like cursed, and I can't tell. It was like a
I
couple
think
years or something, right?
it was more than that.
Yeah,
Oh, maybe
like
it is only 2. I don't know. They do mention it like when you like talk to the characters, but I don't.
yeah, I
No,
don't
no. So
remember them specifically
as
saying.
far as the public knows, the prince is already
Oh
dead.
no, it is maybe it is years ago because I
Yeah,
feel like Hulkenberg talked about when she was young or something.
yeah. I thought it was like 12 years, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's probably about
Um,
right. But
because because you
everyone
have
thinks the prince is dead though.
yes, because you have the
Yeah,
flashback, and then like your main character is with the prince, and like he's like a kid. So I think it's quite a while ago.
yeah,
But as far as the public, pretty much very, with the exception of like a very small amount of people, they all believe the prince is dead, and then the king has been assassinated. Therefore, there's no succession to the throne.
yeah,
And the thing with the prince is actually that he is cursed, and you're desperately trying to find a cure for the curse because it's getting worse.
yeah.
So that's how your main character just comes across, and like that's part of his thing is the
Well,
person.
their belief is that they have to kill the person that put the curse on
Yes,
them to release the
yes,
curse, and they
that's
believe at this point it's Louis, Lord
yeah,
Louis,
yeah, Luis. So yeah,
who is
they're
also
I
the
swear,
person that assassinated the king.
yes, which we know from the cutscene there.
Yep.
Um, yeah, like so we assume that he's the one that cursed the prince, and we assume that he's like we know as the players that he did definitely kill the king, but we assume it based on what they know about him.
Yeah.
So the whole like that start of the game is you trying to get to a particular character so you can begin your plan to assassinate Louis, but unfortunately that does not work because
No.
at the king's funeral, a magic spell he's started, I guess, as part of his will, I suppose, triggers, and basically no one can kill because this like a forced democracy, I suppose. The king's
Yeah.
spell is that by like the end of the year or whatever, whoever is the most popular in the hearts and minds of people, like it's not even a physical vote, it's like this spell is detecting the support of the people. They will be the king. And so he's got this big giant rock which has got the faces. So it had like, there's also this church which is really big, important to the plot. It's like sancticism. So obviously the head of the church is number one, but Louis is like a number two.
Yep.
Even though at the event this happens, he's like literally crashed the funeral and dropped a giant dead
Yeah.
monster on it, and it was basically just trying to say, "Yeah, I'm going to be the king, deal with it." But this kind of interfered with it.
Yeah.
So like they're the main two that are likely to be it,
And
and
the top
you
20 cannot be killed.
yes, so you try to do your assassination plan, but your friend gets stopped by the king's magic. So yeah, those particular people cannot be assassinated so as to not interfere with the will of the people. They're protected by the old king's magic. So now you're like, because you can't just kill him, as far as you know. Um, so, but then, yeah. So the demo sort of does all that, and that's where I thought it was going to cut off, but it kept going. You go into the dungeon. At this point, you already know that Louis is a bad person because even from like the cave area at the start of the game, it's like not even the cave before that, but you find out in the cave after that, these human attacks, which are these giant grotesque monsters that are destroying everything, like they're more dangerous and concerning than the average monster. Louis has been like allowing them to happen so that he can be the guy that beats them up. So you already know that he's
he wants to protect people. He's
mean,
causing problems
yeah,
and solving
he's
them. And
like the means justify the ends kind of guy. So he's
what
just like,
doesn't he say in that initial cutscene or whatever at the beginning of the game? He says that he wants to destroy the kingdom or something, right? Like when he kills the king, doesn't he say this? It's kind of like a Joker-esque, I'm going to burn this place down sort of thing.
No,
I thought he said something about wanting to burn
he's just
everything
talking
down.
about like he wants to start a new thing because he's like the means justify the ends. He's very like meritocratic. He doesn't give a heck about the racism in this game. Like
No,
there's hella racism in this game to the extent that like your main character is the elder and like the state religion is like these
doesn't
specific
even
races
recognize
are
them, right?
bad and they're not
Yeah.
even allowed in the church and they are evil. Which is a whole nother plot thread too, which I haven't so far the story didn't go into it too much unless you're going into character stories, but one of the things the
Yeah.
church is so I guess the elders and some other tribes probably had access to like just actual magic, regular magic, but that's considered bad by the state religion. So the only way for regular people to use magic is to buy igniters, which are these products that obviously the church has their hands in. And that's the only way for normal people to use spells, and obviously they're very expensive, so it's mostly for the privileged and soldiers and stuff. So that's but Louis doesn't give a heck about
No.
even though he's one of the more top. Although I think I have to double check, but someone saying Louis was like actually only half. They call them half bloods. Which one thing I actually really like about this game is the you've got all these fantasy races, and they actually show you sort of what like some of the mixed race characters look like. They don't show you like, oh, what if these two combined, but say there's a little girl in this game and she's half of the tribe that has like 4 wings, so she has 2 wings. And there's another one there's the antagonist of the cathedral. He's half of the Mistari, and they have 3 eyes, so his top eye is actually closed because he's half, so it didn't like fully inherit that way. So
the necromancer?
Yeah. So it's really like so many games have all these like here's a bunch of fantasy races that are just like slightly altered humans, but they you don't see half like mixes or anything with like even in Final Fantasy 14 it's like you see one half elf and that's that's it. Oh, okay. So it's really good. Like from the start, you've got multiple characters that are like, mixed, and especially and that really affects them in this super racist world, where it's like not just it's like there are tiers of superior, like almost a caste system, really, on top of all that.
Well, one of the candidates, I know when you get to Brilehaven, it's kind of this like so I guess for this whole thing where you're trying to become the king. The church kind of recognizes that, this is the king obviously wanted this to happen, so we're going to recognize this whole thing. So they create this competition of sorts, and so they all agree that all the candidates should meet in Brilehaven, the first big city in this other region, and they're supposed to bring like a head of a monster or whatever. Yeah, the biggest head. And there's actually one of those races. I can't remember the Rastaloo or something. It's the one with the horns.
Rasant? No, Clamar. The ones with the horns is Clamar.
Oh, okay. It's
the elves are like Rasant. And then the old guy with weird stuff on his face is called Rogue, I think. You don't see
maybe
much
it's the
of those
Clamar
ones.
guy. Because there's definitely a candidate who says like our our race of people are the strongest, and we're gonna.
I think that's the
He wants to be
Rassant guy.
king. Yeah, he's like,
Of
I'm gonna be king because we're the our tribe is the strongest, and we'll rule with an iron fist and keep peace or whatever. And it's
so
yeah.
the church starts this tournament for the throne to try and like rig the popularity, like because they're at the top at the
Yeah.
moment. But like Louis, despite his behavior, like people don't really know like the really bad things he's done, but like a lot of people suspect that he did kill the king just because of his attitude, and things like that. He's still the second most popular. So like I said, this is like that's the first step, and that's like the first leg where you break out and you get into sort of the normal gameplay loop, and you start getting into the politicking because you guys decide to enter the tournament because basically it's really weird. I don't, but they can't beat Lewis, so they're going to enter the tournament to become king, so that Lewis doesn't become king.
Yeah, I'm trying to think because there's a weird
they
like.
intend to supplant the prince once they fix the curse, but it's very
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember. So
it's very
so
funny.
basically
You're
they
like,
figure
I'm
out.
king, and now here's my successor. Bye.
Yeah, because I remember what happened. So it took me a minute to figure out what was going on. Because so when Grius tries to attack Louis and he can't, the main party figures out it's like, okay, well, we can't kill Louis to save the prince. So if we can't kill him, then we have to figure out what the formula was for the curse. So then they
So
wanna
that's the
be
plot
friends
point.
with him. They're trying to become friends
Yes,
with
that's
Louis so that they can
also
get access to the curse formula.
yeah,
Apparently,
that's
to
also the plot point what we're still up to, or still continuing it in the moment.
yeah.
Is that we're not letting Luis. Luis at the moment is just completely ignoring the tournament too. Like he doesn't give, he doesn't
No,
care.
he's just well, supposedly he's going around killing humans,
Yes,
to protect the
yeah,
kingdom.
he's
That's
just doing his own campaign, regardless of the
yeah,
church's thinks. Isn't like the church, obviously.
yeah.
Uh,
But he has underlings in the
yes,
competition. Yeah,
yeah. So even the church does too. So like the point you got up to, like the third most popular character is also a church person. So they're just sort of um, so people are putting extra horses in the race just to like I guess do the same kind
stack
of
their
thing.
odds or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah, basically like what you're doing, but nobody knows that you're not campaigning for yourself.
yeah.
Aside from your close circle. So that's what you start getting into. So the first thing, the main next part of the story is you guys are deciding. You decide that like, oh, a head of a human wouldn't be good enough because most people haven't seen a human. So you look at the bounty posters and you see that this bounty that's been sitting on for ages, where this guy is supposedly like a former knight is supposedly kidnapping children in this town, and like nobody's answered the call or dealt with it. So you guys go, because the competition is the biggest head, and if you go the biggest head in not terms of physically the biggest head, but like a former knight, like a disgraced
Yeah.
knight,
Metaphorically.
yeah, metaphorically. So that's So you head to the town of Martyria. Or Marisha. I think it's spelt one way and said another. I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's like your first. And that's how you first get to experience like the sort of loop where you get this gauntlet runner, which is like a boat with legs that goes across the land.
Yeah.
Because
Powered by like a weird heart thing.
you're on a time limit and it would take way too long to travel by foot, and also that means less monsters to deal with on the way. So that's you use that, and there's some facilities. Also, another tip: on every fifth day, use the toilet for one free luck point.
Yeah. Now, specifically the toilet. There is a toilet and
Yes,
a washroom. And if you
washroom
use the
gives you
washroom, you have a shower and you get nothing. But if you
get
use the
100
toilet,
XP every
do
time,
you?
every day. Yeah, and if you you go check the pantry every day because you get free ingredients, which is really important. The cooking, you can only actually do the cooking when the gauntlet runner is actively moving between locations. It's
Same
kind of
with
funny
planting
though.
seeds.
Yeah, which is kind of funny because like when you go to a dungeon, dungeon takes up the whole day, but when you're in a gauntlet runner running to one of the bonus areas, like the mini dungeons, you still get to do like one thing before you end up in the dungeon.
Yeah.
So you kind of you actually get like more time than you do doing like the story dungeons where that takes up your entire day and night, which is funny.
It's
But
kind of
if
the opposite of
you
Persona, because I always felt like I was never given enough time in Persona to develop the relationships. But so far in Metaphor, it seems like they give you almost
a
too
bit
much
more
time. Like there's days where I'm like, what am I supposed to do today? I've done all the quests.
work on your social stats. I mean,
Yeah,
royal virtues.
I was reading books.
Yeah, well, you might as well.
Yeah.
Read all the ones I got so far, but I got Maria to level 3, and then the bonus to that, because like I think we talked a little bit. So the whatever you call the social things in this game, like you're not social links, you're not confidence out of it. Followers, yeah,
It's
followers.
the royal attributes.
No, that's the social stats. I meant the people. So
Oh, like
they
the actual follower count,
the
like
main
the popularity
bonus, yes,
number.
the
Yeah,
followers, like the ones you make friends with,
yeah,
So the main thing of that is you unlock new archetypes, which are the job system, which I think we talked about a little bit. We'll probably go into it later. But that, but so that obviously means you spend less of the points that you have to spend to study the type, like things like that, or they get more skill inheritances. Like if you level them up, then now, say my main character, like his main first job he had, I can put 3 bonus skills from other classes I've learnt onto that character, like that, if he's that particular job. Anyway, not but yeah, so like that's the main benefit of like why you want to actually make friends with people, is so you've got more options combat wise utility.
yeah.
But they do also have extra bonuses, the same way the confidants of Persona 5 did. So like Maria, you get speed cooking at only like level 3. It's like before, only like just after you've started doing the gauntlet runner thing. So now I can cook without taking up any time. I can only cook like one particular recipe, like how many I've got, but like that's basically a lifesaver that you're not wasting an entire day cooking. And
Mm-hmm.
cooking is pretty important. Like oh yeah, one other tip. Every time you've got a fire, like a campfire in front of the boat, or not on the boat, whatever, look at it, because you get an ingredient. So like there's 2 types of bread. One where you like, it's like if you're not in an area you're getting attacked, not the safe rooms in the dungeon, but like just you've taken out the enemies and you're sort of safe where you are. There's the magic bread, and you just stand there for a minute. It fills up your HP a little bit, like a certain amount. And then there's the MP bread, which I used because I got like a pre-order bonus. So I used that up in the that first big dungeon, the cathedral. And you can only get one of the ingredients via this campfire thing, so it's pretty like limited. So it's like definitely do that every night you can to try and, because those breads are very, very helpful. So
Yeah.
cooking's pretty good. And then there's also like I haven't used it because I actually switched to difficulty. I was playing it on hard, and then I got to, in the cathedral you have a fight after the first, like the boss fight, but like you get a save point and they fully like replenish everything. Otherwise, it would be impossible, I think. But that one was annoying me so much. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to drop the difficulty, and it was like crazy just how much more damage I was doing and how much less damage he was doing. So I've sort of kept it at that, and I do feel a lot of the time I feel like it's too easy, but then I'll run across other, like, but it means I'm not just getting frustrated, and it doesn't feel like yeah, I don't feel as like I guess tense. I'm just going through it a bit more casually, with the exception of like like we'll get
Well,
into
yeah,
at least some
the
areas.
difficulty is weird because it seems like yeah, like, I agree with you. Like on normal, it feels like everything's pretty easy, but then every once in a while there'll be like one hard fight where it's like, what the hell was that? Or the thing that's bugged me is if you get ambushed, like you can
Oh
get a
yeah,
game over in like one
don't get
turn.
ambushed. Just don't,
Yeah, it's crazy. Like
just
there was
don't.
one time I think I was like talking to somebody and wasn't looking at the screen for a second, and I got hit from behind, and then all of a sudden it says fantasy is dead, and I'm like, I turned my head for 30 seconds.
Yeah, I
It
got
was-
like jump scared by like a skeleton, I think, once. Yeah, it just, yeah, it meant that like I basically wasn't had game over as much, and I wasn't like relying on those auto saves to keep, because you can only, in the little dungeons don't have safe rooms. So they do have, sometimes you have like the cat somewhere, so you get a save point, but not like, because those safe rooms are like to teleport you to different points, but obviously those other areas only just have one instance of cat before the boss basic of that area, basically,
yeah.
because like, yeah, there's like mini dungeons that are out of the main town, and you sort of take a few days to travel to them on your gauntlet runner. yeah, I've presumably picked up a quest relevant to it before you go in there, otherwise you might have trouble like David did. So
Yep.
they're pretty small. Sometimes they're only like 2-ish floors or like a bit more. So one of them was like, I think it was the Marisha one because it was like, or maybe yeah. I'm like I said, I'm a bit ahead, so I'm trying to keep it the same as where you are. But one of the ones was like, oh my, it felt like it wasn't super long, but I'm like, wow, how long is this one? Because it was like 2 or 3 floors, but you go up different set of stairs to get to different sides, so it's very like, oh my god. And then the whatever the minotaurs in this game would respawn.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm in that one now. It's kind of weird, like those mini dungeons too. Is like the enemy diversity is so small. Like you go into a mini dungeon, there'll be like 2 or 3 different enemies tops.
Mm,
Like you'll just be fighting the same enemies over and over and over. Like I'm appreciative of the shorter ones because like after you fought in the same enemy like 8 times in a row, it kind of wears on you a bit.
yeah. But I really liked the mini dungeons, honestly. I guess because like that first dungeon is just so long. Like I don't mind
Yeah,
it, but
it's pretty
like
long.
it's pretty long. So it starts to have these shorter versions, and then we'll get into it. But like that second sort of dungeon you do is actually, I feel like it was quite short. Um,
Oh, like in the
in
sewery
Marisha,
under the
yeah,
castle thing,
under the
yeah,
castle one.
with
Um,
the
but
baby human.
yeah, we'll get into. I guess we said we'll talk a bit more about the story there.
Yeah.
But I'm just sort of kind of all over the place talking about what I want to mention. Yeah, that one was pretty short. And then what you're up to, yeah, not too long either. But I do hear the one I'm about to get up to is pretty long. So I guess they're sort of pacing it a bit better, where it's like not every dungeon is a gigantic like slog of like, can I beat it in one day? And I'm like, I don't know if I'll be able to
Yeah.
beat this next one in one day, but one of the things there in terms of the gauntlet runner stuff. Yeah, so there's also weather condition. And yeah, we'll go back into when we talk about the combat a bit soon. But if it's bad weather, because it's got sort of that press turn system where if you hit a weakness, you get an extra turn, basically. So if you can do that to like basically get 2 rows of turns if you can hit weaknesses enough times. But on bad weather days, that doesn't happen. And for the most part, I was able to get through the areas on the bad weather days. But say I did that area, like the tomb area with the minotaurs and stuff, and it was getting really annoying fighting those guys trying without being able to like get extra turns. But yeah, again, because normal me, like I wouldn't have been able to do that on hard at all. Like I just would have died. But on normal, I'm able to still do that and sort of get through it. But now I'm up to a bonus area where it's like, oh, and I even like saved. I went to the next day and it was still bad weather. And I'm like, oh, because it's like a long way to go there, so I don't want.
Yeah.
I'm not redoing the stuff I did before. Like, I'm like, I'll waste a couple days. Like, no, it's still hot. I'm like, so I'm gonna try just to get past the boss at least. Yeah, like there's a couple of the mini dungeons where it's like, yeah, I'm actually not fighting all the guys in the area. I feel like I'm coming like there's particular enemies and I'm like running around. Both of the times it's been a tower, so like I can just run around mostly.
Yeah.
And it's really funny. I was running past one and I'm like, wait, there's a door in the way. And they don't hit you when you're opening a door.
Oh really?
Yeah, so he's just sort of like there behind me, like he's gonna do it, but he's just
I
across the
don't think
hallway.
I've noticed it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, please, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, story we got like the story starts with the campaigning. Lewis is definitely a bad guy. Other than he's not racist, so that's 1 point for him, I suppose.
Well, it
But
doesn't seem like it anyway.
it doesn't see. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we like I said, we went to the first town to get the head of the knight, and that's when the story continues to be, I guess, somewhat interesting because
Yep.
you first of all you get told to go during the specific bad weather because one of the guys says, "Hey, it'll be safer because the giant sandworms in that area will be asleep." and
Supposedly.
and then you go there and the giant sandworms are definitely not asleep.
No.
So you have to go through the butt of a giant worm. That's like
Yeah, that's got to be the weirdest dungeon so far. Is like, oh, I got swallowed by a worm, and then there's like
and your
someone
mission
in there just kind of hanging out, camping inside the worm, and then
and
he's
your mission objective is get to the A.
get through the anus. Like and it's funny too because they like lean
It's
into it too, like because when you eventually go like through all the different areas, like because you're and it's
a
funny because
time
there's
limit
like a
too.
time limit, yeah, because
Yeah.
they're like if you're in here for more than 15 minutes the stomach acid will kill
I
you,
had
and
to
it's like,
retry
oh
the
no.
there's like honestly on normal I think you could probably just like pick up everything and not run out of time because I still had like 10 minutes when I beat, or roughly when I beat at 9 minutes. But like if you go like the left ways, there's treasure. And one of them, like there's a human where it's like a fish with human legs. It's great.
Yep.
I love that design. I had to retry that fight so many times because I wasn't fully healed when it went into the fight. And because it's like, like I said in like the demo discussion, like you make sure to make use of like the stunning thing where you like use the real time combat to go into a stun. You can't do that with boss fights or mini bosses. Like you're just encountering them, so you don't get that free stun.
Yeah.
So they might move first and just
Yep.
yes, if you're not fully hit. So it took me quite a few tries to get him, but I did. Um, but yeah, you make your way out and you find this disgraced knight. And then he ends up becoming your next party member because turns out he wasn't the bad guy.
Yeah.
And he was not doing like, you're in a weird cave with giant worms. There's no kidnapped kids around. Um, so you guys are a bit sus on the guy that told you the worms were going to be asleep. So now you're like, And then, you go back into the town and you unearth this big conspiracy involving another human that looks kind of like a giant baby.
It felt very Persona-ish in that sense, with
Yeah.
like just the whole setup where it's like, oh, or there's this woman who's like you learn that her baby was killed because it was from, again, like the whole racism thing. It was, she had a baby with another tribesman or whatever, like someone not from her tribe, and so because it was like, again, kind of a half breed or whatever you want to call it, her nurse killed the baby and to spare the family the ridicule or embarrassment, and then that led to her fostering this human in the bowels of the castle and
Because it's
feeding
like a
feeding it.
giant baby with like legs attached to the head.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, big.
It's almost like a kitten too. It's like a cat with a human head and a pacifier, and then it's like,
But she's been kidnapping her own townsfolk and feeding them to this
it.
monster and calling it her
Yeah.
baby. One thing, like what you said, like that is very Persona because it's like Heisme has lost his, which is the knight you find, and he looks like a little bat guy because they're called Ujif, and he was the one getting accused, and he talks to her because he had lost his son, so he knows like her pain,
The pain, yeah.
And so he talks to her, and then she sort of has like a little like a change of heart, but like without being mind stuffed, just by actually being talked to by someone going like, "Hey, dude, like, don't do that."
Like, yeah.
Don't do that. And the game is still sort of hinting at something in the story because like there's a lot of things where you're like again with like the magic, like it's really heavy in areas where the humans are. She's talking about a fog being lifted from her. There's a lot of people in the streets and they've just got like blackened heads and they're like, sort of like Persona 3 where it's like the people that are just the apathy.
Oh yeah, the apathy syndrome.
It
Yeah.
reminds me of that, where it's like there's this weird stuff going into a bunch of people and nobody gives a
Yeah, well, there's definitely something going on with the humans, like because like you said, the humans are attracted to the magla deposits, and so there's something going on there. And then they kind of, it seemed like there's a lot more.
And the necromancer guy
focus on
says it's like the it's a natural thing or something, like that those crystals and flowers and stuff. So obviously there's a lot of, I guess, history that is obviously being suppressed by the church and stuff. But yeah, I'm still, even where I'm up to, I don't know what's to go with those people that are suffering the magla.
Well, and then there's
when you're in
the
Brilehaven,
fantasy book, and they've kind of haven't really gotten too much more into like how the fantasy world, like the like our world or whatever, the fourth wall breaking, like they haven't really got into any of that
Yeah.
yet either.
And in Brilehaven, like the third city, sort of, like you've come across some more fairies, but they're all acting pretty weird too. So you don't know what's up with that either.
Yeah.
At the moment, I do hear people say that like something happens in Act 2, so I guess that's when the story will become. Like, not that it's not interesting now, but I'm assuming that's when it might hook me more because, like, yeah, I guess that Marisha bit was a very Persona 5 story beat like, but most of it's not really like that, so it's not so bad that it's like once off. That dungeon in particular, I guess because I switched the difficulty down, I was definitely, I think, over leveled.
Yeah.
Almost every enemy I didn't actually fight in a turn-based fight. All the fishmen didn't just insta kill. It was only like the chest guys and the weird snail humans, because like there's this there's some of these human monsters that are like more sort of normal sized rather than being the giant boss monsters. But
Well, even
yeah,
that
so
human boss wasn't that, like, I went in with almost no magic left and I still managed to get past them.
yeah,
Like
that one
the
wasn't.
human wasn't
No,
too
that one
bad.
was pretty easy. I had to like retry it once, I think, and then you've got that tuck in the retry button. So like you can't do it if it's not your turn, but if it's your turn, you can restart the whole fight. Which sometimes I'd do if they just did something I don't like on the first turn.
Yeah.
Or if I miss. Oh yeah, one tip for you, David. Make sure at least one character has the steal ability on, because not from the big boss fights, but any of like the mini bosses or even like the people you fight, you can actually steal a good item off of them. So like,
Okay.
and if you put it on like high space specifically, and if even if he's on a different class, just steal. And if it doesn't work first turn, just keep restarting the fight.
Yeah, well, it's
And
funny because I
it'll
did
tell
use the
you.
steal. I think it took me like 5 tries to finally steal something.
It'll tell you if they don't have there's couldn't steal, and there's this character doesn't have anything. Just like
Yeah.
so that's why I know it doesn't work on any like the human bosses, but like mid bosses it does, and it's like so you get some really, especially if you're job swapping all the time, you really want to not have to spend all your money on weapons and stuff, and you get weapons and stuff. It's really good. That dungeon. I also there's stealth segments in that where like you're trying to avoid the baby. You assume it's a baby based on the noise. You don't really get a good look at it until you actually fight it
You
properly.
kind of see the pacifier though, right?
Yeah, you see the pacifier like straight away, and you hear it, and you're like, "Oh my god, it's just a baby monster."
Yeah.
But you gotta avoid being seen by it, or you end up in a fight, and it's a pretty tough fight. You can fight it, and I did.
Oh, really?
I think because I'm playing on normal, I feel more confident doing the extra stuff. Like I fought the dragon in the starting area this time, so things like where I'm like, the fights aren't as tough, so I can try these tough fights now. You get like 600 XP and some stuff. Like you don't really get an item for it, and then there's a second section, and if you fought the baby there, guess what? You still got to you can fight it again, and again XP, bit of money, but like it doesn't make any difference. Like there's really
doesn't affect the final
unless
fight with
you
the
have
baby.
a lot of like MP restoring items, or like it also does like the days thing, which is really annoying, and you don't really know going into that like a dungeon that you need anti-daze stuff. There's not really any reason to fight it. I think it's more just a deterrent to stop you from like not being sneaky. Because I fought it like twice before the actual fight, and it didn't have any less health or anything.
That's no fire.
Yeah, like you feel like if I beat it twice and scared it away, it should at least be missing some health. Or no,
weakened in some way.
Yeah. Actually, one thing I like about normal is so a lot of the boss fights have like a little gimmick where it's like, oh, you should beat up this part instead, so that you're not getting hit as hard, or it's not doing particular attacks.
I didn't bother with that.
Yeah.
I didn't bother with the eyes on that baby.
No.
I was just like, no, he's almost dead. I'm just going
that's
after
what I mean. Like, I'd already done so much damage. I'm like, no. Like, I'm because of that. In those fights with the gimmick, like I could in normal mode anyway, you can just completely ignore that. You can just so I guess it can move a bit more into like the combat like we have been. But yeah, that's one of the things. Another thing is some enemies will do soul scream, where they just give themselves 4 extra turns, or 2, however many extra turns. The boss is usually 4. Apparently,
Yeah.
that's actually triggered by certain actions. So, like,
Oh.
it's in a bonus area where I'm actually further ahead. But the informant says, "Hey, you should fight from the back row because you've got that formation thing." But yeah, so literally, just if anyone is in the front row, that particular monster will trigger a soul scream. So it's basically
Okay.
impossible to. But then it also makes it really hard because you deal like hardly any
Less
damage.
damage.
That's what I'm stuck on basically right now. But so I didn't realize that like this soul screen was triggered by particular things. I think with the regular story bosses, that's probably just like part way in their health or something. But it was really funny. I saw a clip of someone with this boss fight. I won't say like exactly what it is because it's like past the point I said we're talking about. But it's like, they've got extra pieces and it's like, oh, you should deal with these. And then they did. And then that thing used Soul Scream and just regenerated all the parts. So it's like,
Yeah.
wasted all your MP and stuff to get rid of that instead of just beating itself down. I guess if you really can't handle the damage it's dealing, but like, yeah, if you're just playing on normal, you can usually ignore that.
Yeah. I don't know. Like the combat is one of the things that so far I'm not sold on the combat. Like it's been more irritating than fun. Like there'll be certain. It feels like, well, first of all, like you can't even tell from looking at them if they're in the front or the back row. So I haven't really been paying attention at all what row I've been in because I'm like, I don't know. Like it goes, like it'll show you just your character when you're in the fight. And then like you can hit up or back to move them. But then, there's no like, it doesn't seem like there's a physical, like
In the
obvious thing
Yeah, it's
where
not
it's
really
like you're
obvious.
closer or not.
It's like they'll have a default formation, which then gets messed up. You get ambushed. So like when you set up the party, like certain characters will
Yeah.
default to front of, but like for the most part, I'm just manually moving them. One of the jobs I've unlocked is like you can move them to the front, and I'm like, well, I don't. They're usually in the front by default unless I'm fighting an enemy that's particular, or I've got the gunner class, so they can't use some of their attacks unless they're in the back. So it's only like specifically been worrying about that when it's a particular, like, this boss is targeting the front row, so you just move everyone to the back row, and you don't do any the synthesis attacks because that's going to take up your turns. And that's the synthesis attacks actually make things really easy because it takes up 2 turns and both lots of people's MP, which I didn't realize.
Yeah.
But when you find the right one, it can deal a lot of damage. So when I've been going to these extra areas and with the heat thing, and you don't get like bonus turn for weaknesses, I've had to not use synthesis, and then it's like, so it makes the fights very extended without them, really.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird synthesis too. Like there's one where there's like a jump thrust. That's I've been spamming that a lot because it does a huge amount of damage, and then it also reduces the defense of the. But then there's a few because I've unlocked a lot of the job classes and a lot of the advanced ones. Like I've got the sword master now, which is the upgraded warrior. And then I've got the Magic Seeker, which is the upgraded Seeker. I think it's Wizard is the upgraded, like it's the upgraded Mage class.
Yeah, because they've got like the trees, and then that's the other reason I was focusing on some of those followers because it's like
they have to be.
I saw one of the classes needed a character to be max, so I was like really working on that character because like they've got a class lock behind them. And yeah, you've got to multi-class you guys to like Hulkenberg, I mostly had her on Knight, but then I had for a lot of the Cathedral, she was Brawler, because I unlocked that, and I put her as Brawler, so now she's really behind on her Knight class, and I had to put her on Mage to level 10 so that she could get to Magic Knight. The MC, I've got them on so many different classes.
Like, no, I've just unlocked all of them for the main character.
I haven't had him on Mage. I probably will just, because you get all those bonus like XP things for the archetypes, and I've actually started to use that. I used it for like an area in Brilehaven where it's like, how do I deal with this thing? And someone's like, you need this class's one specific skill at level like 20. So I just like used my max it because I hadn't used them at all, and just like maxed that class out so I could do it.
They're pretty generous on those, like because if you plant hero seeds, in the gunner or in the runner, sorry, you get, I think it's like 3 or 5
Oh
seeds, and they're
wow.
1,000 XP each.
And that's basically a level each up until like
Yeah,
level further level anyway. Yeah, I haven't planted anything yet because I've had other stuff to do and I wasn't using those. So I might now that I but I've also unlocked yet another gun gauntlet runner activity like that's further on in the game, and that's like, but you know, like there's a couple you unlock as you progress, like the bath and stuff like that, but then you need the items to use them. So I've mostly just been
yeah,
I've mostly been focusing on my stats and relationships, because like, you know, then if I get most of them done, or if I have time where I can't work on those, then I can work on the other stuff. So I haven't, you know, haven't been
yeah.
increasing my own MP and stuff very much unless there's nothing else to do. um
What's your take on the characters themselves? Like, do you feel like engaged with them? Like,
I think they're
I,
fine. I do sort of, as I've got further into the game, I do feel like Stroll and Hulkenberg don't feel very much in the way of personality. Like they've got a story. Like I don't know if I've maxed Stroll or I'm pretty close to it, but like I think I have actually. I've done his, and his thing. It's just very. I am a noble and everything. You know, my parents. It's basically my parents were so good, and I'll never be as good as them. And then you just give him the confidence. You know, it's like you give him the confidence. You resolve his sort of personal issue. It's like he's fine. I guess I like them more just when they're the party together, you know? Like
yeah.
he's funny when you're like banging the pots to get Heisman's attention and stuff like that, or dealing with Hulkenberg's like food thing. But like in terms of like getting to know him, it's like it's alright. Like it's not offensive. I just don't, you know.
Well, just to go back to the persona again, like I
It's
feel
no
like
Ryuji, huh? Or
yeah,
Junpei.
it doesn't feel like the same connection. Like I don't feel like
I
the same
guess part
connection
of it's
between them.
also like they're not the archetypes are not the arcana that they've been using throughout the entire Persona series. So it's not. I mean, except for Gallica is basically the magic
The
one,
mage,
and
yeah.
that is like what Morgana and da 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 was. But aside from that,
Well, it's
aside from
even
that,
like even that comparison. To me, like Gallica is not as like the relationship between the main character and Gallica is not as strong as like Morgana and
I don't know. She's still doing that being insecure thing, but so far it hasn't resulted in a big problem. So
yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I guess that's the thing is like
to be
they seem to
fair,
have a little bit of problems. Like you said, Stroll is like, oh, I'm trying to rebuild my nobility,
yeah,
and Hulkenberg, trying to work on the whole
her
knight
former
thing, and
friend as well
yeah,
too.
but it's
And
I
I'm
don't
not
know, it
smart
just
enough to continue that storyline yet.
yeah, I don't know.
whereas,
It's just it's not
whereas,
as good. The
whereas
right under just it's
Hazme,
not as
you know, I
strong.
mean, his whole thing is sort of like his grief, obviously. Which I saw one
Yeah.
person complaining. Did you see the tweet? Someone was complaining about Maria. I think
Oh, really?
Maria. Yeah, he was like normally I hate kids in JRPGs, but this one takes the cake. I'm sick of her boohoo
Oh,
routine,
jeez.
and it was like everyone's just dunking on him because it's like she's lost almost everyone, and she's in a world
Well,
of racism. She's insecure about her position in life because she's worried she's just going to get kicked out and on the streets like all the other
yeah.
kids she's seeing. You know,
And I
like
don't
it's
think any of them have actually told her dad is dead. They just said he's not coming back.
yeah,
Like nobody's like, and I'm just like, why isn't anyone just saying, "Look, your dad died
yeah,
trying to protect the kingdom"? Nobody. No, it's just like, no, he's not coming back
yeah.
ever. It's like what?
It's
That's not very nice.
no. Actually, so but has I guess I like Hazmo's personality more than the other two party members you have at the moment.
Yeah.
In terms of other characters though, I really like them. I've been doing Brigada's storyline, and yes, like I think someone said Brigada and um the like blue haired I forget what the guys with the sparkly eyes are called, but
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
I can picture it,
they
but
I was gonna say like my racism in this game is against the sparkly eye people, but they actually don't look.
yeah.
Now that I've actually played the game and I look at them, they don't actually look as creepy as I thought. Just because like there's an Animal Crossing character called like Judy, and she has the sparkly eyes, and I hate her, so I just associated them
Oh,
with
yeah.
her. But like they don't look that bad actually in
Well,
like
it's funny that
practice.
a lot of those relationships are with people that aren't even really around. Like you
Yeah,
said,
Brigada.
Brigida. Like you actually fight. I fought her twice now. Um,
Are you talking about the right
and
person?
or is she's the bounty hunter, right?
No, that's Katharina.
Oh, okay. So So Katarina is a relationship that you have that you could build up for the brawler,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Some of
Yeah,
them are like story progress sort of tied, although you do have to go to the extra areas to encounter Katharina because she's in the Gauntlet Runner as well.
yeah,
Um, and some of them are just stuck in their town. Some of them are your party members coming with you. And it's really funny
yeah. The
because it's like
shady guy, that
you
one
unlock.
shady guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he's never around. I don't know. It's just weird that some of these
Um.
relationships with people are just not around. Oh, is
Um.
Vegeta the merchant?
Yes. Yeah, her
Okay, yeah,
storyline's
yeah,
good.
yeah,
You unlock teleporting, but then it takes like a day to like get there or whatever. But if you go through the follower menu, you can sort of get a free teleport to like the town, so it's not taking you a night to get there. You just instantly teleport to them. But the problem is going back. Like if you wanted to go back without wasting the day, because you're like if you do something in another town, you can then teleport back for like for night, but it might take up the whole day, or you don't get that time
yeah.
slot. But yeah, I can use it just to, I want to hand in this quest, and I've got a couple of like non-maxed followers in Grand Trad, so I'm gonna say I'm going to talk to this person, but I'll teleport to me in front of them, but I won't talk to them. I'm going to go to the shop now. Just do that, but like the getting back will still take up the time. And the problem with that is you can't just use your followers to teleport back like your party member ones because they're you through the story, like the teleportation is like a story thing, so they're already in town with you. So you do that, you're
Yeah.
still in the same town, but
I
it's
like how they like kind of brush off the teleportation thing too. Like
yeah,
there was one time I teleported to the inn in the capital to talk to Maria, and Fabian, I think her name
yeah.
is, where she's like, "Oh, I thought you were off doing stuff, but now you're here," and
I guess you
I
gave
guess
up.
I guess it's fine. I guess you know what you're doing. It's like, and I guess like she's like, I don't get this teleportation stuff, but I'm sure you've got it figured out. Like it's just like
um,
one line in the dialogue that's
it's
just like,
so
oh, okay,
we're in a video game. We need to be able to do
yeah,
things, even though we're on this linear. I One thing I like about like I like having the extra time to do whatever too, like the deadline sort of things, because
yeah,
they're like it's sort of like Persona 5 in a couple places, but then other times it's not. Like you've got the deadline, but it's like
yeah.
it feels different. But I do
It
also really
broke
like
the pace
when
a
you're
little bit.
yeah, I do like that bit with the worm, that bit like other things where you're just going through the story without the deadline because it's not
Yeah.
up yet, and just experiencing it like sort of a normal RPG, I guess.
Like the one thing that bothered me was so when when I completed the thing with the human baby or whatever, and they're like, okay, I guess we'll head off to Brilehaven, and then they're like, oh, actually
Yeah,
there was a rock slide. It'll be 7 days before it's cleared. I'm
7,
like,
wow.
7 days?
I
Like, what are
actually,
you talking about?
that's funny because I left it to sort of like the last few days. So I only had like 3 days left because I was just like,
Oh,
I'm
I
gonna
had
work on
yeah
my. I wanted to like really work on my support, like um,
yeah. No, I
yeah.
had
It was
7 days, and
so
then they were
funny.
like, "Oh,
It
maybe
was
we should
like,
do some hunts." And I'm like, "I've done all the hunts. What do you want me
yeah,
to do?"
yeah. We'll just work on your skills. You could have
Yeah.
milked the cow.
Oh, I did milk the cow, and I also
Okay,
went
because
bungee
you want the
jumping.
milk.
Did you go
Yeah,
bungee jumping?
I didn't because you get courage through like the bounties in the story and like
Yeah.
where you're up to in Brilehaven, where you're up to. You can't do the like it's weird. You can't do the Colosseum until like I swear like the last few days before the deadline goes off.
Oh yeah.
So I did a couple of those because that also works on encourage, like what I could get up to anyway. I think I got to like the way the Colosseum works is like there's two different modes you go to, and it's like here's a particular fight, and you just do that. And then there's another one where it's like 30 fights in a row. When I got up to 10, and I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna beat the next guy. Um, which definitely that one's a bit more interesting because it's like you don't know what you're gonna fight, and you can't change your jobs in the middle of a fight unless there's like someone's skill that lets you do that. I don't know, but not what I'm up to anyway.
Yeah.
So Curry like I'm further ahead than you. I've got like one or two attributes up to like level 4, and then the other ones I really need to work on because I can't be with my friends until I'm nicer or something, I suppose. Um, yeah, so for me it was only like 3 days, but it was so funny that it was just like rock slide. Oh no, and I'm like, this is like a Pokemon level if you can't go here yet type of thing. Like, I mean that's an entire Twitter account like dedicated to like the excuses for why you can't go somewhere. But I just thought that was so funny. Because it's about like guys show up to like that next area on like your due date for the thing, whereas I guess if a Brilehaven, the next thing is like, instead of, you've got to do something before a certain date, whatever, because you've got to try and get keys to like what you're up to is infiltrating Luis's Gauntlet Runner to try and get the formula because you think you've found the magic formula. So like you've got to do that, and so that's like a thing, but it's a bit different because it's like, yeah, you do that, and you could do that. Probably maybe not the first day because you might not be strong enough, but you could theoretically do it the first day, and then you actually can't progress like the story because it's specifically on the party that is that night. So instead of it being like you go through the dungeon and you resolve the story and then it's just a roadblock, it's like, it's like you're just prepping for this particular night. So I like that was a bit different. And I don't mind having the 3 days to do stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not maxed out yet, so I'll worry about it when I'm maxed out. And even then, I won't. I can just mop the Gauntlet Runner and get more HP if I'm really maxed everything else out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we'll see how it goes. Like, again, it's still early. Like, I'm probably only in the first quarter of the game, but like I said, it's hard not to compare it to Personas because I just finished Persona 3 Reload. So, and because the formula like follows it so much, it's tough not to compare the gameplay loop. And it's funny because in comparing them, I almost kind of miss the demon aspect to it because like a lot of my like final, like the way I ended up finishing Reload was I was unlocking all like the highest tier demons or whatever, right, and doing all the fusions and just being like, you know what, I kind of like the fusions better than this job system because like even with the job system, I feel like I'm changing the jobs way too often. Like I'm always switching between like merchant and mage when I'm in a dungeon because because when you're doing the just the combat, like the action combat part, when you're knocking out enemies as a mage, it refills your MP, and then but if you also do it if you switch to the merchant and you do it, then you're getting more money, and then eventually the healer ends up unlocking a heal mechanic when you defeat enemies, and so I'm like flipping back and forth all the time, and then like you said, when you kind of raise the relationships up and unlock the skill inheritance, like you could be a knight and then you unlock all the magic anyway, so it's like, well, like I'm almost like a half knight, half mage.
The next thing in the knight line is magic knight anyway, so that's kind of it encourages you to do that. But yeah, I see. I didn't really make the MC mage, and it's annoying that it's like their ability because it's super useful for trying to get through a dungeon in just like one day. But I found some of the job classes actually really like trying to take out those weak enemies. It's actually really annoying because like they've got a ranged attack instead of a sword and stuff, or they're really bad for like those crystals. So I don't change the jobs too much. It's just like, I'm going to the dungeon, and the quests for these extra areas, the bonus areas, they'll recommend you classes. And then sometimes I'd pick on those recommended classes, and I'm like, this sucks. I'm taking it out. Or which enemy is this for? Because it's not for. It must be the boss because it's not good for these guys. Yeah, like I said,
the inventory management's kind of annoying too.
Yeah, it's like when you're in one menu, all the consumables are in one thing, but when you're in combat, they're separated. But like my MC, he's like, because I was using him for like the requests for more, it's like, get this class to level whatever. So like, he's Seeker, he's Merchant, he's Healer, he's probably one other thing too. I had him as like the Trickster for a bit, but now I've further ahead. I've given that to another character because like, one of their classes says you need that class level 10. So I'm like, okay, well they can be the one that choose those two classes. Stroll I had as a little bit mage just because like for the skill inheritance, to get those weaknesses basically. So like him and Hulkenberg had a mage in them, just a little bit. But I was mostly sticking to warrior. I might have had him on one other thing, but then I also I unlocked the class after Marisha. When you talk to Bardock again, you get commander, which I haven't found like super useful yet, but except for like a one particular fight in Brilehaven, but like just going through that class that I have it and the skills. And then Heismay has been thief and gunner for the moment. But then I also, you see, I need to like work on him for Seeker as well to get like the next class, the one after,
Yeah.
like you can see ahead. But I'll because that's only to level 10. I'll probably just use those fruits to do instead of
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's what. So my main character, I was focusing seeker healer, on the and merchant. So I was kind of going through those three.
Yeah.
I also did a little bit of mage just so that I could refill my MP. And then for Stroll, I've mainly left him on Warrior for the most part, and a little bit of Knight. But I unlocked the Swordmaster, which is the second stage for Warrior, so that's where he is right now. Heismay, I left him on Thief until he maxed out,
Yeah.
and I can't remember what I might have moved him to Mage. I can't remember what I moved him to. I moved him to something. And then Hulkenberg, I've let is the mage of the group, which is kind of weird because she was supposed to be the knight, but she's like the wizard now. So
No,
it's
I had it was
I've
like the
been
brawler,
trying.
so she was like catching those hands.
Yeah. Oh, I had her as the gunner for a bit too.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know. There's none. I wouldn't say there's any class that I necessarily stick to. Like I try to keep a balance between like
Yeah.
physical and magical because you
I
never
think
know what kind of thing you're going in.
and like as I said, most of the other characters have one or two classes they're swapping between, and then my MC is just like whatever we need.
Yeah. So yeah, so I guess like what's your overall thoughts so far? I guess just
Pretty good. I'm excited to see. I don't know if it's when I finish where I'm up to or a bit further because everyone's saying, oh, like, I don't know, something that I guess when you hit like the halfway point or something happens, it's dramatic. So I'm excited to see what that is and how much the story changes, I suppose. Because it sort of seems like it's like you're going through this tournament thing and there's like one or two more legs of it, but like, are you actually going to go through that or is something going to disturb that and interrupt it? I don't know yet. And like I said, there's a lot of story points we don't know about, like all those people, about the Magla, about the humans, so like all of that for the story and stuff to get more interesting. Not that it isn't, but just to like fill it up a bit more and maybe the more time I can spend with the party members outside of their personal quests, which are pretty whatever for most of them.
yeah.
The party members anyway. But yeah, I like it. I feel like I'm on off about whether I should have lowered the difficulty, but then I'm like, part of it was just like it's like 100-hour game, and if I like I'm redoing all these stuff, that's going to be a lot longer. Really, like I have a job and a kid, so I'll just play it on normal.
Yeah.
And like I said, there's this points where I'm like, I wouldn't have been able to fight this bonus guy or do this on the bad weather days if I was playing on hard at all. It would have really, really restricted me. So
Yeah. Yeah, I'm enjoying it for sure. I don't know if I would give it the same universal praise that it seems to be getting. Like again, maybe it's because it's early and maybe there's lots of games that open up more as things go on. Like obviously the story is going to become more complicated and hopefully maybe the characters will be a little more fleshed out. But there's been a few games this year that I've enjoyed more. So like I've finished them obviously, so it's kind of hard to compare. But I mean, like I definitely had more fun with like Infinite Wealth and Rebirth or whatever. So I'm hoping it picks up a bit because again, like a lot of it, I'm enjoying. The story is definitely the thing that's interested me the most about Metaphor. Just kind of seeing how things go, especially with Personas. Yes, there's different stories to each one, but they all kind of have a similar vibe to them. With the high school life and the writing injustices or whatever. So it's nice to have something new, but we'll see how it goes. I'm hoping that the combat gets better. There's been a few games where it's like the combat doesn't necessarily interest me until it gets really complex later on, and then when the strategy becomes much more focused, then it kind of that's where I kind of start to enjoy myself more. So I'm hoping as more classes are unlocked and those advanced classes are more unlocked, then maybe it'll the combat will be more fun.
I did end up getting spoiled because like someone in the Discord said, oh, like this little Atlas guy is in this game, so I had to like search it up, and it's like, oh, it's connected to one of the classes that I'm not up to yet.
Oh really? The Jack Frost?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I saw something on. I don't think it's really spoiler because I've seen a bunch of tweets about like, oh, Jack Frost.
The official Twitter has posted it now. But there's another class that's like paying homage to the other games, so hopefully it's actually useful because I'd like to use it, but I'm not up to it yet. So
yeah, I just kind of wondered if there'd be like some kind of like demon summoning class, like.
Yes, I think it's literally called that too. I think it's literally called Demon Summoner.
Yeah, I'd imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. So, not up to that.
Well, with that, I guess we'll put a pin in metaphor for now. I'm sure we'll have it. Big game this year, so we'll have more episodes on it as we go along. Like I said, I think we're about a quarter to a third of the way through so far, so I'm sure we'll circle back when we're maybe 2/3 to 3/4, and then again at the end to kind of do a retrospective of the whole experience. But yeah, we're enjoying ourselves so far and looking forward to seeing what else Metaphor brings. Hopefully, we got a lot of big games, some more releases coming out. So, should be sticking with it for now. And
there's a JRPG every week for me for the next. Tomorrow, Romancing Saga 2 comes out. For me, East 10, like the physical or whatever, is the next week, but I think it's like the same week or whatever for elsewhere.
Dragon Quest 2D HD is
in
November too, right?
The week after, and then Dragon Quest 3 is the week after that.
Yeah.
It's every week.
It's going to be a busy end of the year.
I'm now not picking up Fantasian because they decided no physical in my region. They had it up and it was there, like on the EB Games and everything, and then suddenly I clicked the link and it was gone. And then so somebody I know contacted because Bandai Namco is actually the one that publishes Square Enix games in Australia because they hate us that much they can't be bothered to do it themselves. So yeah. And I obviously really want a physical of that because it was a subscription game. But I did see the Japanese eShop listing has English, and I'm going to Japan a couple weeks after it comes out. So if I see it in Japan, I'll get it. But I'm really not with this paying for over $50, more than $50 for a digital only game, or having to import it and then it costs an extra $10 or $20 versus what it would have been for the jacked up retail cost here. Like it costs even more. It's
it should be easy enough to find when you're in Japan, I would hope. Yeah.
I'm very mad about that. And I can't even boycott them because they're publishing like 2 other games before that I want.
Yeah. Well, we can't boycott Square Enix. It's
Boy Scouts
in our contract. Yeah. Can't boycott. Well, I want to thank you, Paige, for joining me and for playing Metaphor along with me. It doesn't sound like Casey or Jordan will be playing anytime soon. Yeah, so we're looking forward to some more episodes on that. But I guess until then, I want to thank everyone for listening, and we'll see everyone out at the next Thirsty Mage. Bye.
Bye.